Well, the United States goes to the polls on Tuesday in the 2010 midterm elections. The Democrats are not expected to perform well due to disillusionment with the Obama administration. Well, for more, I'm joined by Professor Geoffrey Garrett, who's the Chief Executive of the US Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. Welcome to you, Professor Garrett. If I can start off with today's news and Obama's response to the major international security threat, is that something that could actually boost his chances next week?
Well, sometimes that can happen. I would really doubt it would happen this time because it's a congressional election, not a presidential election, so it's not about national leadership and not so much about national security either. There was an old American movie, Wag the Dog, where a president cynically took advantage of a foreign policy crisis to help at home. I really doubt that that's anything like that's going to play out this time.
But in a sense, it's people's perception of how he is leading the country that's going to affect the outcome of those elections, isn't it?
That's exactly right, but the midterm elections are really not about foreign policy at all. It'd be very hard to find any column inches on that. It's really all about the economy, and I think the remarkable thing in this election is that Barack Obama is getting attacked from both the left and the right. He's getting attacked from the left for not doing enough. He's getting attacked from the right for being for doing too much, for being too much big government. It's a really tough position for the president and his party.
How much of the issue around these elections is about the rise of the Tea Party movement as opposed to mistakes potentially made by the administration?
Well, the Tea Party, of course, is fantastic for the media, but it's actually a pretty common response, I think, in American politics. So it's anti-elite, anti-government, it's a populist movement, and those movements tend to do best when middle America is hurting, which is the case today. So we not only have near double-digit unemployment, but so many Americans with mortgages that are underwater, owing more on their homes than the homes are worth, highest poverty rates since the poverty statistics were recorded. The economic news is just really tough. So I think the Tea Party has certainly taken advantage of that, but I don't think they've caused the anti-Obama sentiment.
What's happening to Obama's traditional support base, women, Latinos and blacks? Are they likely to come out in big numbers next week?
The big problem for the Democrats is not only that the right is fired up, but that the left is a bit depressed, disenchanted. So the problem for the Democrats is you have the Tea Party fueling this anti-government sentiment on the right. But for the Democrats and their core constituencies, it's gee, we thought this guy was going to change everything and he hasn't changed. So what Obama is doing, and I think it's a sign of weakness, is going back to those core groups, blacks and women being two clear examples, Latinos newer to the coalition, and saying, please come out to support us because, and what they've got to say is, listen, things will be so bad if we do really poorly. So that's a sign of weakness, I think, not strength.
How precarious then is the situation for the Democrats?
Well, for the Democrats as a party in Congress, it's terrible. So I think almost everybody believes they will lose the House of Representatives. Because only 1/3 of the Senate is up, it'll be really hard for the Democrats to lose their majority there, but the new Congress will be much more Republican dominated. I actually don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing for Barack Obama because he'll now have a chance to be leader of the country against Congress rather than what he's been for the last 2 years, which was leader of his party in Congress, a kind of parliamentary presidency.
Okay, you're not expecting any miracles?
Miracles for whom?
For the administration.
Well, for the administration, I actually think that 2011 and 2012 could be better years than we would have thought, and there's precedent for that. The last Democrat in the White House, Bill Clinton, suffered a really terrible defeat in the 1994 congressional elections and bounced back to do a lot, both domestically and I think even more importantly on the foreign policy stage in 1995 and 1996, and then was re-elected. Barack Obama's got to be hoping that that's what his future holds.
Okay, and finally, there's some real concern in Mexico about Proposition 19, which is the legalization of marijuana in the state of California. It's been discussed. It's huge. What's going to happen there, do you think?
Well, California is a state that everyone's looking at in these elections. You know, you have ex-CEO women who could be governor and senator of the state. I don't think either of those is going to happen. They've got some very interesting passing ballot measures, these propositions, referendums in California. It's very hard actually for those propositions to pass, and I don't think the legalization of marijuana proposition has a chance of passing. Neither, it seems, does a proposition rolling back California's climate change legislation. So a lot of hype about California, but the outcomes might be a little more predictable at the end of the day.
Okay, Professor Geoffrey Garrett, thanks so much for stripping away the hype for us. Many thanks.
My pleasure.